tuning in. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the Gentemstick Super Fish, 176 centimeters. Just the regular default Super Fish. I bought this board in the showroom in Niseko after demoing the outline core version of this board, and the Gentemstick Impossible over the course of about 2 weeks. I settled on this because the Impossible wouldn't fit in the bag, but also I think that this board's more nimble, obviously maybe, than the Impossible, compared to the Impossible. And the outline core is a absolute dream in Japan. The nose does chatter a little bit at higher speeds because it's softer, because of the bamboo stringers. And I settled on this one because I ride here in the Pacific Northwest, Mount Hood, Timberline, Meadows. And so just for the wet snowpack that we have here in the Pacific Northwestern United States, I opted for the more, a little bit more stiff. On Gentemstick's website, they range it on a scale of 0 to 20, and the outline core is a 12. This regular default Superfish is a 13. And let's get right into stiffness. So the stiffness of this board, I would say it's a little stiffer than what they say on their website, and this is coming from someone who rides a K2 Alchemist. You can see it behind me, the 160. And I think it's a comparable stiffness to the K2 Alchemist. Not torsionally though. I think that this has a little bit easier time torsionally. I mean, given the width on this board, you might expect something different, but I'll just say that when I was riding in Japan, I fell in love with both, well, all three shapes really, but I could only take one home, and so I decided on this one. Reason being, coming from someone who typically rides the terrain park, growing up in the Midwest, riding Trollhagen, Afton Alps on the rope tow, and even here ski bowl, riding like a K2 medium, wanting to get more into backcountry jumps and stuff like that, switching to the K2 Alchemist. I don't really give a shit about rails anymore, but I care more about carving now. Because of the experience that I had on the Superfish. It made me rethink what snowboarding can feel like, because other snowboards, even riding here in the Pacific Northwest, just started to feel not so special. I was starting to get bored of the experience. And the Gentemstick Superfish opened my mind to what a snowboard can feel like when you're carving. It is a truly, truly wonderful ride. I've been using it as my daily driver since arriving back home, so I've probably got about 40 days on it since arriving back here in Portland. I suppose I should dive back into the stiffness, just to revisit that. So in the nose section of the board, it is a little bit softer. This is subjective, I would say. I'm not exactly sure what objectively the factory would say, but from my subjective experience, the nose is a little bit softer because when you do get that nose press, it does just kind of settle in a little bit nicer, and then you get a good amount of pop. I would say it's about I would say a 14 out of 20 flex in the midsection here, about a 15 out of 20 in the tail, and a 13 out of 20 flex in the nose. Super stable at high speeds. It's really impressive. Like the K2 Alchemist, for a comparison, J-Stone with this iteration has this recessed top sheet to add more stability to prevent that chattering at higher speeds. You can check out Angry Snowboarder's review about this snowboard. They talk a lot more about that. But it is amazing how much more surface area you have on the Gentemstick Super Fish in that nose, and yet it is so stable at speeds. The terrain that I have been using this board on is by and large not really powder here in the Pacific Northwest. Like, sure, I understand it's an excellent powder board, right? The fishtail is gonna funnel that snow out and allow you to sink, and the nose is going to elevate you above the snowpack and just keep you surfing the pow. While that's all true, I genuinely think that this board is the most fun snowboard I've ever ridden because of the fact that it is a absolute surfboard to just carve on it. What do I mean when I say that is, I feel very empowered to lay a deeper carve and achieve a higher board angle on the snow as opposed to any other snowboard that I've ridden in the past. Like, there's a K2 Medium behind me, a General Public, a K2 Alchemist, my old Capita Navigator split board, my Weston Japow 169. Just none of them, or any board that I've ridden at the demo days recently here on Mount Hood on March 16th. Even the upcoming Burton Smooth Operator 164, a comparable powder board, which is going to be released in 2026, it just doesn't really turn and keep that edge bite in the snow that the Gentemstick Super Fish does, with the stability too. It is just an absolute dream. You can really lay some deep turns with it. As you can see, my stance angle here is about 21 on the front foot and about +9 on the back foot. And man, I originally was toying around with like -3, 0, -6 even, with about a 20-inch stance. Stance width. But the thing is over time, I just felt like what I was using this board for was carving, but also, man, I just love taking this thing off of the jumps at Timberline and Mount Hood. Anywhere from, you know, the 10 to 20 foot jumps in their terrain parks there are just an absolute blast on this thing. I feel like it actually teaches you to land more bolts. So that's the story I told myself, because I don't want to snap the tail. But even when you do land a little bit in the back seat, as I said, it subjectively feels more stiff back in the tail, so it does kind of catch you in a similar way to a stiffer tail like in the K2 Alchemist, for example. And I've been able to progress my riding both in terms of carving and jumping on this snowboard. I feel like it has just opened my mind to what possibilities there are. Like I landed my first front side 360 indie grab in the Thunder terrain park on the first jump line there with this board, and I feel like I can still progress jumps with this snowboard at this stage in my riding. I'm using the Rome katanas on this snowboard. I wanted a binding that would not dent the top sheet because I was quite precious about it when I got it, because the fit and finish on this snowboard feels unlike any other board I've ever laid hands on. It just, the factory where these boards are made is in China. The Gentemstick factory is also in Niigata in Japan, but only a handful of their snowboards are made in Japan. The Impossible being one of them, the Taro Tamai another, the Magic 38, there's a few of them, but the majority of the boards that are coming out of Gentemstick are actually pressed in China. But the fit and finish on the boards that are coming out of China compared to Japan, you can actually go into the Niseko showroom factory and look at the boards that are made in Japan and look at the boards that are made in China. And surprisingly, the boards that are made in China do feel like they have a little bit more of a, just for an example, the sidewall was recessed compared to this nice, smooth, continuous feeling. It was recessed on one of the snowboards that was made in Japan. I believe it was either the Magic 38 that I was looking at, or maybe even a Taro Tamai, a TT. And the Super Fish and the other boards, it just have this smooth, continuous sidewall all throughout. It's really, really, you just put your hands on the sidewalls of a Super Fish and you feel the edge too, and it's different. It's a different quality control. Even at the demo day, riding for example, the Smooth Operator, this Burton comparable sort of Super Fish adjacent model that's coming out from Burton in this 2026 year, doesn't feel at all as premium. And the tune, you can even feel like the edge on the side of that Burton board. The edges are not as sharp. They're not as they're not like that katana, like Lars Horstman would say from the Just Ride Snowboard-Channel. I feel like their edge game is a little bit lacking. Anyway, yeah, I was riding some Burton Malavitas from about 7 years ago on this snowboard, and it dented the top sheet, so I got some Rome katanas, and I adjusted them so that way the stance felt a little bit more like a surfboard by adjusting the ankle strap angle. And yeah, it's been very fun to play around with that. I adjusted the front foot to be totally not the most high aggressive ankle strap angle, but the middle ground, and then the back foot the most surfy low ankle strap angle. And it's been a total blast. I guess to get into the sort of additional user experience here at home at Timberline on this snowboard, the first few days that I was riding it there, it seemed like everybody around me was just like, their eyes were glued to what was on my feet. One gentleman in his 60s, a tall, burly man, was riding a skunk ape. He crumbled to his knees at the top of the chairlift at Pucci when he saw me get off the chairlift, and he crawls over to me, puts his hand on the Gentemstick, and starts brushing away the snow, and looks up at me and says, "Dude, I'm so sorry I started touching your snowboard. Is that a winter stick?" He was very kind. He was like, "I'm on this measly skunk ape." anecdote that I'm sharing just now, to me, suggests that, you know, in that demographic rider, the old heads probably want a winter stick from days gone by, but even the younger cats at Timberline have been just giving me a ton of props on the snowboard, and style points is how it feels like I'm just raking them in. And what I'm getting at is I think that they're going to become more popular, but I don't see anyone actually riding them in the Pacific Northwest. This past winter, I've been the only person riding a Gentemstick on Mount Hood that I've seen. Some shops in the Portland area are starting to get them, but I just assume that means that more people are going to be interested in them, and so I wanted to make a review because holy cow, this thing is incredible. Changed my mind about snowboarding. Got me to go to the hill way more times this year than I otherwise probably would have had I just stuck with the K2 Alchemist. Sorry, Jay Stone. And so I would encourage you guys to check them out. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have made this review, because I was hoping that, you know, The Good Ride or Angry Snowboard would have come out with one by now, because when I was doing my sort of research on the board, there's nothing, and there still is nothing on YouTube about a review of the Gentemstick Super Fish 176 centimeters to date. So if you have any questions about my review here today, please leave them in the comments. This is my first snowboard review ever, so if you made it this far, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys have a fun winter, and go keep shredding. Thanks.